fact is to really understand how Torah works, you have to understand how it's not so much the conclusions, but the process and the concepts that are applied. I mentioned to you last week that both when the Rambam wrote his code and also when the Shulchan Aruch came out, there was a backlash from Gedolim. The Chachamei Srafat were upset with the Rambam for this, for writing a code, and there were some major individuals who were not happy with the Shulchan Aruch, because you have a situation where they felt that you focus on the codified law as if that's the Torah Sinai, and you don't understand that law, any legal conclusion, is a connection between ideas and facts. It's like an equation. There's the ideas and the theories and so forth, together with facts, yielding the conclusion. Okay? And what you see from the Gemara is that we're sometimes told the idea, we sometimes have a conclusion about a certain halacha, but what you see the Gemara doing is trying to decipher the halacha to try to understand what are the facts and what are the ideas. Like, for example, I'm sure you've studied this when you study Gemara. You have a halacha. A person says, but if you change the facts a little bit, right, the halacha is different. And that's because the original halacha that's stated is the conclusion. It's like the conclusion, and then the Gemara is saying, let's understand how that conclusion was arrived at. What were the facts and what were the processes? If this was the facts, let's say this is the process. Therefore, if you change the facts, you're going to have, applying the same process, you're going to yield a different conclusion. What happened with many times codes were written is that the conclusion was understood to be like a halacha Moshe Sinai. This was assumed to be the final conclusion, the halacha right from Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai. This was what God said. Do this, don't do this, and so forth and so forth. But the reality is that what HaKadosh Baruch Hu really revealed was some type of theory or process that was connected to certain facts. When the facts changed, the conclusion also changed. So I'll give you an example. The Aruch HaShulchan says by Kibbud Av V'Ein, okay, are you allowed to sit in your father's chair? No. Right? It's pretty straightforward halacha. It says right there, don't sit in your father's chair. Right? If you have a shus, you can sit there and so forth, but don't sit in your father's chair. The Aruch HaShulchan says there was in Europe, guess where he was and so forth, there was a minhag in the shuls that there was one seat in the shul that was designated to be like the seat for the leader of a specific family. Like there were family, like a seat that was like the Chashva seat, the seat for the Schwartz family, the Chashva seat for the Levine family. This is where the head of that family would sit. Okay? And it was like whoever was the highest ranking individual of that family would sit in that seat, and that would be a kavod to the family. Right? So the Aruch HaShulchan says, what happens if for some reason your father is the head of the family and he can't go to shul? For some reason he's not in the shul. Right? And the seat is empty. The seat is empty. And that's bizarre to the family that the seat should be empty. So you should sit in the seat. It says, Kibbud Av V'Ein in that case is not sitting in the seat. Kibbud Av V'Ein in that case is sitting in the seat. Why? Because the halacha is not don't sit in the seat. It's not defined in terms of that detail. The halacha is defined by showing honor, respecting. Right? So in certain circumstances, the correct way to show respect would be a statement of of sitting in that seat. Okay? So that's an aspect of being in touch with your ideas than being in touch with actions. Let me give you another example. Okay? This is an example that they say b'shem Rabbi Yoshe ber Soloveitchik. Halacha is that you're not supposed to shave on Yom Tov, right? You're not supposed to shave on Yom Tov. Why are you not supposed to shave on Yom Tov? Okay, so sorry, not Yom Tov, on Chol Moed. I mean, you're not supposed to shave on Yom Tov because it's Yom Tov. But the fact is you're not supposed to shave on Chol Moed. Why is it you're not supposed to shave on Chol Moed? Because there was an idea of you should shave, take a haircut before Yom Tov, before Yom Tov, right? So for some reason, the idea being, if you didn't take, they didn't shave every day. They used to trim you. If you didn't trim your beard before, why would you want to trim your beard on Chol Moed? It's because you didn't trim it before Yom Tov. So he says that you trim a beard. He says the truth is, if you didn't trim your beard before Yom Tov, there was a Xeris Chazal. You can't trim it on Chol Moed, which would make you trim it on Erev Yom Tov. Okay? Now the fact is there are certain people, for example, like a person who just came out of jail can trim his beard on Chol Moed and so forth. But the idea being, it really was to get someone to shave, to take care of covered Yom Tov, preventing us. Okay. So what about a person who shaves regularly, shaves every day? Okay? Okay? Should that person shave on Chol Moed? So if you look in straightforward halacha, you're not supposed to shave on Chol Moed, right? But this person shaves every day. So I've heard b'shem Rabbi Yoshe ber that he holds that a person who shaves every day has to shave on Chol Moed. Okay? Not only is it mutter for him to shave, but he has to shave on Chol Moed. Now why does he have to shave on Chol Moed?
Because the person just do it because it's his minhag to do it every day.
No, I mean that's his minhag, so that's personal. But the fact is, halacha can override your personal. Wait, if you don't shave on Shabbos, even though you shave every day, you can't override that. So
it ruins your own egg.
Interesting. Okay, so the fact is Rav Yoshe ber Soloveitchik said like this. It says the idea is you have to take care that you should prepare for Yom Tov. You did prepare for Yom Tov. You shaved Erev Yom Tov, right? So you did your job in terms of preparing for Yom Tov. Now, usually when we say someone doesn't shave, what kind of person doesn't shave? Generally, what?
Novel.
A novel. It says if you shaved on Erev Yom Tov, right? And then on Chol Moed, you've already done this stuff. You already prepared for it. You allow your beard to start growing. What does it look like? It's not covered for Yom Tov. It also looks like Avelis. Okay? Avelis is a steer from Yom Tov. Okay? Simchas Yom Tov overrides Avelis. So he says the idea of Chazal was to say that you have to prepare for Yom Tov. You prepared for Yom Tov. You shaved right before Yom Tov. Now, if you don't shave on Yom Tov, that's a siman of Avelis. Right? That's showing Avelis. And Avelis is seised the very concept of Yom Tov because it's Yimei Simcha. Okay? So that's the difference over here between looking at the bottom line law, as you see in the law book, versus looking at the concepts behind the law. Now, the fact is you have to be very careful about this. Why? Because the truth is that you'll hear someone say to you that like in terms of Shabbos, that the reason you can't light a fire on Shabbos is because it was really hard work to light a fire. You had to hit those two stones together and so forth and so forth. So you see, it was really hard work, but Bisman is that it's not such hard work. So what's wrong with turning on a light bulb? Right? That's what people time it. Right? That's what conservative, more reformed people time it at. Right? They sit there and say Shabbos is so you don't work hard. Nowadays, this is not working hard. So forth. So you have to understand what the concept really is. If you really look into Shabbos, you see the concept is not to work hard. So you have to really investigate what the concept is. But the point is, right? But the fact is in terms of those concepts, you have to know how to apply the concepts. And sometimes when you look at the law book and you read the law book and you only look at the conclusion, you may actually get it wrong. Bizman hazeh. Okay? Because the fact is a law that's written in the Shulchan Aruch might apply to a specific situation, a specific set of facts, okay, and therefore the Shulchan Aruch paskin this way in terms of certain facts, but the facts are different. The legal conclusion is different. Now, one of the reasons we're so concerned about that is because of exactly what I said about conservative reform, because they say the same thing. It's just the fact that their theories are not true halachic theories. So just saying that Shabbos is hard work, well, that's not it. But the fact is, if you really investigate the theories, then you come up to very, very different conclusions. And the fact is that's where the halachic process starts functioning, but that's also where the tension is between the people are so locked into certain conclusions because that's a Shulchan Aruch, and because there's been this non-halachic movement challenging those conclusions.
Right.
So we're a little bit more constrained by that. What?
I mean, I don't care.
Okay, no, just.
I just find. Well, I nearly got in an argument just now. But people challenge the concept of halacha. People challenge the concept of what the rabbis are telling us to do. But they're challenging it from an idea of like, well, this doesn't make sense, or who are they to decide halacha, or without actually understanding where the halacha comes from. And like you said, like it's more of the idea.
There are the fact is that
it's infuriating sometimes.
The reality is that most people really don't understand what Torah Sheba'al Peh is, and the fact is that Torah Sheba'al Peh really is very much was created by Kodesh Baruch Hu that demanded human involvement. I mentioned to you last week that if you don't ask questions, you can't understand Torah.
Right.
Okay, the fundamentalist doesn't. Okay. The truth is that Christianity, when it started, one of its attacks upon Orthodox Judaism, I mean, upon Chazal, was what they attacked was the man-made law. Okay, they say these rabbis came up with these laws, and people say the exact same thing today. People say to you, "I want to do what God wants me to do, not what the rabbis do." So the idea of most people, in terms of, even if we believe in Torah Sheba'al Peh, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave a list of laws to Moshe Rabbeinu, the conclusions. Okay, most people almost think that the Shulchan Aruch was given to Moshe Rabbeinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave over the Shulchan Aruch, gave over details. So how come there's machlokas? So then people start saying, well, that's because it got messed up and forgotten and stuff like that. The truth is that any law that was absolutely given conclusion to Moshe Rabbeinu at Har Sinai, the Rambam is very adamant about, okay, that no law like that was ever forgotten. Okay, all machlokas comes about according to the Rambam. Let's say other term, but according to the Rambam, and you see this in terms of his intro to his Perish Mishayos. He says machlokas is the result of the human interaction with the Torah concepts and disagreements in Sforah. So Kodesh Baruch Hu said, like for example, tefillin are little black boxes. You never see a machlokas on actual tefillin. There's never a machlokas about what tefillin look like. There's never been a machlokas. There's a machlokas what the order of the parsha should be. That's because Kodesh Baruch Hu didn't, according to the Rambam, right? Kodesh Baruch Hu didn't state the exact order of the parshas. He said he gave indications of what that should be, analysis, drashas, and so forth and so forth. Anytime there was a disagreement, it was because of svaras. The fact is for most people.
Well, some are bigger and then smaller, right?
Pardon?
The bigger tefillin and some have they're smaller.
Yeah, but they're both okay. The fact is both are kosher.
Dimensions is all
right. They're all the same. The fact is that in shiurim, it's like you don't see disagreements about certain aspects of shiurim. But the point is that according to the Rambam, there's never a machlokas in something that was clearly articulated with detail.
Does that mean every machlokas we have is now something that was in construct of the rabbis?
Yeah, so every machlokas is because of a result of drashas, of analysis, of svara. Now, the fact is this really got into the Christian argument. What the Christian said is this is the man-made law. Because most people think, you go up to most people and say, if God told you not to eat pork, would you eat pork? No, of course not. God says not to eat pork, I'm not going to eat pork. So why do you eat pork? Well, I don't really believe God said it. So they'll sit there and say the text is not true. Okay? Or they'll sit there and say, God never said don't turn on a light bulb. Because they didn't have light bulbs back then. Right? He said don't make a fire like a person. He says, of course I listen to God. God said not to make a fire because it was hard work and because this, and this. But the fact is, a light bulb, they didn't have a light bulb, so it doesn't. The perception is that you want God to actually state the fact clear, black and white. And that most people actually look at the Shulchan Aruch and think that the statements in the Shulchan Aruch are the statements that Kodesh Baruch Hu gave at Har Sinai. It's not true. Kodesh Baruch Hu did give a few details. Usually we refer to them as Halakha Moshe Sinai. By the way, the Rambam's theory, there's a lot of questions on it, a lot of problems with it. We do see Machlokesim on Halakha Moshe Sinai and Shas. There's a lot of the Rambam's statement, but this is what the Rambam's viewpoint is. But the fact is the Rambam is very adamant about this. He's very adamant about this, and he also says in the Ikarim, he says anything that was absolutely given on Moshe Rabbeinu we never forgot. And he's very adamant about that. But the fact is,
so why do they need to reconcile the Gemara?
So the Gemara is because we have to try and figure out what the law is. Because Baruch Hu gave us processes, He gave us theories, He gave us psukim that we're supposed to do drushes on.
So, like example, we knew what Pedika was, but we didn't know to what extent.
I'll give you an example of Machlokas. Is Puravu incumbent on a woman or not?
No.
What? No. Is that true? Puravu.
Oh, that's her.
Is a woman mechayev in Puravu? Okay, it's actually machlokas in the Mishnah in Yevamos.
Yeah.
Okay, that says that there's one sheet in the Mishnah that says women are mechayev in Puravu. Okay, we paskin that women are not mechayev in Puravu. So
men.
what? For men. Okay, you obviously need a woman to do it, but the fact is that's something different. But the fact is women are not mechuyev in Puravu. Okay, but why is it so? So you have a machlokas. So what exactly did the Kodesh Baruch Hu say to Moshe Rabbeinu? So according to the Rambam, he didn't say anything. He said, here's a mitzvah Puravu. And then we tried to figure out who is mechuyev in this mitzvah. So we have drashas. And we, through the analysis of Kif Shuha, through there's Machlokas analysis, but the most classic one is because of Kif Shuha. Women are not in the concept of Kif Shuha, of the simple understanding is fighting wars, of conquering. Therefore, they're not Mechuyev in Puravu. That's a Drashas Chazal. This is analysis because we're supposed to analyze psukim. We're supposed to do drashas. We're supposed to determine what the law is. But there could be machlokas. Now, what Christianity said is that's a man-made law. You got to take God at face value. You got to take what God says, blank, so forth and so forth. But the fact is that's the way most people actually look at Revelation. Most people think Revelation was very straightforward. In other words, it's that God gave the conclusions, and our job is just simply to memorize them and know what to do. But the fact is that's not really what Revelation was. What it was is that there were certain laws that were very clear-cut, but what we had to do is determine what the law was based upon the analysis and the ideas that we got from a Kodesh Baruch Hu, through our drushes and so forth. And that's what happens every machlokas. So if you look...
Did you get that?
What we have to do is determine what the law is based upon our analysis, our drushes, our svaras, and so forth.
Right. So in terms of Reform and Conservative, what are like some things that just blow them out of the water and just... Because nowadays, like when I was arguing...
Well, the point is they try to do the same thing. The point is their starting principles are not halachic principles. They're just
Now they're religions, you're saying?
Pardon?
Are they
Now
legitimate?
they're religions, or you're saying
No, in
conservative
Reform.
No,
How
I'm
can
saying-
How can they be legitimized as a Jewish?
Okay. Well, let's understand something here. I don't really want to get into Reform and Conservative Judaism because you're talking a different theology. I'm going to put it that way. They have, in other words, they have different theological principles, okay? And they come to determinations based upon these different theological principles. Once you don't believe in Torah Sinai, so they have a whole different idea of how the law came about. They have a whole different idea of the relationship between to the text and to analysis and so forth. That's their analysis. That's their system. The point is to them, they believe that this is what was the truth. They don't believe in Torah Sinai, they don't believe in this, they don't believe in that. So therefore they come to certain conclusions of what this religion was. If you look at Reform Judaism, Reform Judaism will tell you that they're the true descendants of the Pharisees. And Orthodox Jews are like the Sadducees. Now, do you know what I'm saying like that? They're saying...
Yeah, the Pharisees. Pharisees are...
Chazal, the Prussian.
And then there's the Essenes too, right?
Right. So they say that Orthodox Jews are like the Sadducees, are like the Sadducees.
Yeah,
but I thought they were wiped out.
That's like the...
Right, but they say that... Right, but the reason for that is because if you study ancient Jewish history from a secular perspective, the perception was that historically the Sadducees were the traditionalists.
Right, they
were the Sadducees. They were the more traditionalists, and the Pharisees were the innovators and the new idea people. And therefore, what they say is
weren't also right because they only believed in just Torah.
That's right.
And not
right. So the fact is, according to us, Torah Shabbat Peh always existed. So how did the Sadducees, the big question for us is, how did the Sadducees ever come up with this idea?
Why would they categorize this as that from them if we're not
because we're looking at it from Torah Shabbat Peh and Torah Shabbat Tav. Right? We're looking at it like that. So the way we understand it is that there was Torah Shabbat Peh, right? Always. And then something happened to make some people start thinking that Torah Shabbat Peh was not really from Har Sinai, okay, in a simplistic way. So we say that Tzadok and Bastis, who were two Talmidim of Antigonus Shisocha, came to a conclusion that Torah Shabbat Peh is not the Sinai. Okay, that's a simple way of understanding it. The truth is that the argument between the Sadducees and the Prussian was really on, not that there was no Torah Shabbat Peh. There has to be a Torah Shabbat Peh. Everyone proves you can't follow Torah if there was no commentary that came to it. Even in the Psukim, it says, the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, as I'll show you. Right? So he showed you, right? So the fact is people ask, so what did the Prussian do in terms of wearing tefillin? They wore tefillin. The difference with the Sadducees was that they would not accept an explanation of Torah Shabbat Peh that was contrary to the text. Okay, I think I mentioned this last week. Like for example, with this is a sort of not a halachic example, but the fact is, or I'll give you a halachic example in terms of Machros HaShabbos. The pasuk says Machros HaShabbos is when you start counting Omer. Shabbos always means Shabbos. Machros HaShabbos means the day after Shabbos. So you should begin Omer on Sundays. So they always believe that the beginning of Omer should be the first Shabbos after Pesach. And Shavuos should be 7 weeks later, beginning on Shabbos, right? Beginning Motzi Shabbos. Chazal said, no, Machas Shabbos is Pesach. Shabbos is referring to Yontif, okay, the first day of Yontif. Machas Shabbos is when we begin Omer, and therefore Omer is is always started on the second night of Pesach, and we count 49 days from there. So Sadducees arguing, but that's not what it says. It says Shabbos. How do you get Shabbos to be Pesach? They didn't like it when Torah Shabbat Peh contradicted a clear-cut statement in Torah Shabbat Tav. Okay, That was the big problem. That was their problem. The other example I gave was by Miriam and Zipporah. That the pasuk seems to say Moshe took another wife, right? Another woman, Isha Shelakach, and we understand it to mean that he separated from Zipporah. How do you get that? That's what the verse says. We are willing to understand that the verse is dependent, the Torah Sheba'al is dependent on what we understand it to be from Torah Sheba'al, even if the Torah Sheba'al seems to contradict the simple meaning of the verse.
Because we say we understand it better?
And Rashi will try and show. We'll try and show how you can get this into the Psuk. But our objective is to show how you can read this interpretation into the verse.
So
how can
we do that?
Because that's the power. That's what Torah Sheba'al Peh is about.
So this is Moshe Mishinai Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Right.
It said that you don't have to take it literally. It's not the interpretation.
Because there's drusha, and there's something like that. The Sedukim.
So what was drusha exactly? Drusha is
analysis and also other sforas and stuff like that. The Tzedukim said that Torah Sheba'al Peh as explaining Torah Sheba'al, where the Torah Sheba'al is primary, right? But you can't contradict the verse. Okay? What Chazal did is they really, they really expanded verses, made things seem to be not totally contrary to the verse, but they read things into the verse. It was much more of a they had much greater leeway. I don't like the word leeway, but they had the verses were much more ability to expand it and work with because of the power of Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Tzedukim didn't like this. So what Bustus and Sadik did is they began challenging that concept of Torah Sheba'al Peh. That's our explanation. That's based on if you look, it says that Sadik and Bustus came about from self and so forth and so forth. Secular historians don't learn it that way. Secular historians say the Sadducees were first. And then after the Sadducees were first, the Prussian came around and said that reading the verse so literally, right, you can't leave your house on Shabbos, for example, not allowed to leave your house, right? We understand it to mean is you can't carry out of your house, but it actually says you can't leave. We understand it to be don't carry. The fact is, or we understand the house to be your tchum. Okay, so the fact is that Chazal is that Chazal. But the verse actually says don't leave, not to leave your house. So the point is the Sadducees will stay in their house. Now, this is an example of a very tight legal system. So the Perusian came about and started doing all this stuff, expanding the law and so forth and so forth. So the secular historians consider them to be innovators, these new innovators. Okay? So therefore, what Reform Judaism now says is that the Orthodox, which are also bound by the strict law, they're like the Sadducees, they're the traditionalists. We are in the true spirit of Chazal. We're now the big innovators. So you have to understand.
But where's the Torah coming from?
That's not an issue to them. See, the fact is what you're taking as principles of Orthodox Judaism and applying it to them. All I'm trying to say is you have to understand that they have a totally different theology. You're going to sit there and say, well, how do they get this? Maybe they don't care about that.
So hold on. So from the standpoint of basically, is this both conservative and reform or just reform?
Conservative reform, basically. So
conservative reform. So basically they're trying to legitimize their idea of...
They're not... The fact is that...
They are trying to legitimize.
Yes, but the fact is I'm not trying to get into discussion. I'm trying to tell you that they have a different theology and a way of looking at the facts, okay, which we disagree with. But within their theology, you can't go up to them and say, what do you do with Masorah? Because who says they have the same concept of Masorah that you do? They argue that this is what Judaism is about. And they argue, especially that they'll argue that this is what, and the fact, for example, that we argue that the Rishonim didn't hold like this. They say, so what? Who says it matters what the Rishonim held?
So
because they have a different theology. That's their religion.
Without basis.
No, that's concerned to their way. What I'm trying to say is that's their way of reading history. See, all I'm trying to say is that they have a different way of understanding history. Therefore, that's how everything flows from their understanding of it, and so on and so forth. Same with Christianity. Christianity takes away the Torah Shebaal Peh, if you take away Torah Shebaal Peh, if you say the text is all that God gave you in Har Sinai, then if I come around and do some kind of drush on a pasuk that leads to a conclusion that's not straightforward in the text, then who am I to do that? Okay? Like, for example, the fundamentalist Christians go crazy about creation. Right? They're up in arms about creation, and you can't mix it with evolution, and it's 6 days of creation, and so forth and so forth. Right? It's a big thing in fundamentalists, creation. Right? Most from Jews never got crazy about this.
But why do we?
Okay. What?
But we do, sort of.
Yeah, but we really don't. Why? Because already in the analysis, you look in terms of our reading of Maaseh Bereshis. Already in the reading of Maaseh Bereshis, we knew that it could not have described a simple creation. Light was created on the first day.
Water already existed.
Sun wasn't created. All the sources of light weren't created to the fourth day. How do you have light without a source of light? So we already say, if you read through the Meforshim of Maaseh Bereshis, we're already reading beyond the Psukim. We're doing a bunch of analysis. Okay, so we're not going crazy about black and white. We're already doing a tremendous stuff. And if you read even Kabbalistic stuff and so forth and so forth, Adam and Chava were not, when they were first created, were nothing like we are as human beings today.
Coating of their body was like a nail.
Right, it's totally different. The fact is, so the truth is that our whole approach is different. If that's their theology, that's why Rabbi Yoshe is very clear about it. He wrote an article called Confrontation. He says he doesn't want to get into religious dialogue, into theological debates. Why? Because everyone has their own a priorities, has their own frame of reference, and so on and so forth. What are you going to argue for? Okay, so the point is that you want to believe that. If I'm not going to get into it, if you're going to sit there and say, Torah Shebechtav, there's only Torah Shebechtav, there's no Torah Shebaal Peh, right? God only gave a Torah Shebechtav, not Torah Shebaal Peh. I can argue with you about that, but after that, what's the point of an argument? There's nothing to argue about. You have a different frame of reference. You're coming from a different place.
So how do they have debates?
What?
Like in what do you call it? The shul down, Panic shul, right?
The fact is that debate on pratim. If you're going to argue on pratim, you want to argue anything. It's like we buy it because we buy the Masorah in Torah Shebaal Peh, halacha. If you don't buy it, you're going to give another argument. I mean, it just doesn't connect. So the point is you have to understand you have to understand the starting point, the starting frame of reference. I'll give you an example. I was once with a group of circumstances where I had to show many years ago, I had to show a church group around in a shul that I worked in. Okay? And I was walking out, this was like teenager church group. A bunch of the teenagers cornered me. And they said to me, why don't you believe in Jesus? So I said, no, they were just Christians. They're just Christians. Yeah, they were just Christians. They were good fundamentalist Christians. Why don't you believe in Jesus? I said, no, but this is what it says. It says in the book of Daniel that there's going to be a second coming, right? And so why don't you believe in a second coming? So I said, so the truth matter is for other reasons, I happened to just learn the passing in Daniel a few weeks before. And I looked at him and said, really? What does it say in the book of Daniel? He says, well, so he quoted me the verse. I said, and the verse says 2 years. The verse says 2 years. It's going to return in 2 years. What it means, I don't know. But the fact is it's going to return in 2 years. So I was walking and I said, it's been longer than 2 years, hasn't it been? And this guy said, well, it doesn't really mean 2 years. It means this. It means this. Right? So I said to him, excuse me, what does the verse say? You have your explanation of the verse. I have my explanation of the verse. But the verse itself doesn't prove your point. You were taught the verse with an explanation like this. In other words, your own Baal Peh. right? So you were taught the verse with your explanation. I have a different explanation. But the verse doesn't prove your point. This guy was like, you're right. You're right. Because you know how many people like read verses? That's why when my kids used to go when my kids were young and they went to school, I used to be very adamant when they would tell me a story. Is it a medrash or what does the pasuk say? Okay, what does the pasuk say? Obviously, not that I didn't believe in the midrasha, but you should know what the pasuk says. Right? And the fact is you should know what the details are. So the truth is that you have your interpretations. We have our way of looking at Torah and so forth from our greater analysis of Torah Sheba'al Peh and so forth and so forth. A fundamentalist Christian who says all God gave to Moshe on Sinai, who may believe in Sinai, believes all that was given was Torah Shebechtav, he's going to have a completely different approach to this. Okay? He's going to have a completely different approach to it. Okay. Now, you should know something very interesting about that. For example, there's a Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky. It's one of the Gedolim of the previous generation. You guys ever hear of Yaakov Kamenetsky?
Yeah.
Okay. So like he was up there, Rav Moshe and Rosh Ber and Ruderman and Putner. Okay. He wrote a sefer called Emes Yaakov. Okay, which is a very powerful sefer on Chumash. So he raises an interesting question. He raises the question like this: Can a non-Jew believe in Yesh Me'ayin, in creatio ex nihilo, in creation out of nothing? Okay? Now in the Psukim it says Reshit Bara Elokim, but the fact is, if you actually look into the Ramban says that the first thing Kosh Baruch Hu created was the Hili, was this physical entity, and everything else was created from it. Okay? So the point is that the creation ex nihilo, which is creation from nothing, is from
Christian?
No, that's what we believe in. But creation ex nihilo is creation from nothing. That's creation from nothing. But Aristotle believed in the eternity of the universe. That that just the same way God always exists, the world always exists. All God did was act upon the world to keep it like he's the source of the energy of the world. But he
believed Aristotle in a God?
He believed in a God, but it was not our understanding of God.
Right.
Okay, but he believed in what's called the eternity of the universe. Okay? So Rav Yaakov says that it might be that a non-Jew has to believe in the eternity of the universe. Okay? Okay, he makes a remarkable statement like that. Why? Because how do we believe in creation? Where do we know it from?
Gracious.
Gracious is Torah.
Yeah.
Is a non-Jew allowed to learn Torah?
Is that machlokas?
Well,
we can't do Shabbos.
No, they can't do this. But the fact is that it's a whole big issue of whether a non-Jew can learn Torah or not. The Gemara in Sanhedrin seems to imply that a non-Jew is not allowed to learn Torah. Now, there's a tremendous amount of machlokas on it.
Right.
There's other shittas on it, so forth and so forth.
You can just take a book and...
So the fact is that there's arguments that really Gemara only means Torah Sheba'al Peh, Torah Shebechtav they can learn that because Torah Sheba'al Peh is only...
But everything's available.
Right, nowadays, but it's a mutter. So what if it's available? It's a mutter. Do you know what I mean? The question is, according to
So what happens if they learn that and they're not supposed to?
So Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky throws out the theory that a non-Jew has to follow what the most intelligent or wisest person, what thinkers, scientists, what the idea thinkers are. And he says the smartest man who ever lived was Aristotle, and Aristotle believed in the eternity of the universe. So really, non-Jews should believe in, because they can't learn Torah, they should believe in the eternity of the universe. Now, there's a lot of problems with it. Tremendous amount of problems with it. The fact of the matter is, first of all, there's a lot of people, non-Jews, can learn can learn Torah Shebechtav. Second of all,
the smartest man.
yeah, who says Aristotle is the strongest man? The second thing is, but what he's saying is that perhaps non-Jews is only supposed to come to conclusions to the best of their ability, given the world the way it is. The fact of the matter is that it's not so simple. I mean, the truth is that even the Gemara says that non-Jews really can learn the Torah that's applicable to them, and believing creation most likely is applicable to them. They can't learn Torah that's not applicable to them. But the point is Rabbi Yaakov throws out this interesting idea that it might be that if you're only bound to certain information, you come to this conclusion, and that's the conclusion you should come to. Okay, given your frame of reference. So he says out this possibility that non-Jews, maybe non-Jews who shouldn't learn Torah, and therefore learn about creation, because the only way we can know about creation from nothing is from Torah, maybe they should only believe in the eternity of the universe. The reason I'm giving you this example is that that's really the problem with a lot of discussions across religions or across things like that. If a person has a certain frame of reference, they're going to come to certain conclusions, right? There's no point in arguing with them, okay, from your different conclusions, from your different frame of reference. I'm not going to argue with a Christian, but what do you do with Torah Sheba'al Peh? They don't believe in Torah Sheba'al Peh, so they don't care. So a Christian who only believes in Torah Shebechtav, what did they come down to? They said that the Torah, that Judaism is the man-made law. Since they believed Revelation, God's word, only to be the book.
So aren't they worried about
okay? Because that's something different. That's a different issue about how they understood what Jesus did to the law.
Right.
But they basically said, I'm just saying that their revelation was only the book. So when Chazal comes around and says this analysis, and that analysis, and this analysis, they're saying this is all a man-made law. The book says Shartam lo ta'idecha. Okay, we agree. You should put some kind of sign on your arm, right?
Yeah.
Right. So, but the rabbis came around and said it has to be little black boxes and stuff like this. It says that's a man-made law. Well, according to them, who don't believe in Torah Sheba'al Peh, okay. The point is we do believe in Torah Sheba'al Peh. Now, are we going to? Can I argue with them about Torah Sheba'al Peh? Yes, that I can argue with them about. Okay. But I'm not going to argue with them about if you're not going to accept this as Torah Sheba'al Peh, I'm not going to argue with you about my conclusions on the Torah Shebechtav, because my conclusions on Torah Shebechtav are tied to Torah Sheba'al Peh.
Right.
So the point is I'm just not interested in this.
So you have to understand the frame of reference.
Right, exactly. So the point is, and that's the same with the Reform and so forth, but the fact is you have to understand the distinction there. But according to us, according to us, we believe that in Torah Sheba'al Peh being part of the revelation of Har Sinai, and because of that, it completely affected how we understand Torah Shebechtav, and it created and what occurred is that it was not simple conclusions of law. It wasn't just another list of laws. It wasn't like another Shulchan Aruch. It was ideas, analysis, methodologies of how to do drashas. It was a whole system of thought that we are supposed to apply to come up with concepts. Now, and when laws were given, there were certain laws that were given that were very concrete laws. This is the law, period. And therefore, but the fact is, other laws, when they're given, we have to understand that they were given, and there was ideas behind the laws. So the law was given for specific circumstances, for specific facts, right? And therefore, if the facts change, the actual conclusion of the law is going to change because of that. I'll give you another example. Like, for example,
to say, like, you need waiting in between, like milk and meat, like you have 2 hours, you have 3 hours.
That's a different reason for those arguments, because the truth of the matter is, there's an argument, but one of the arguments is exactly why do you wait? Okay, like for example, why do you wait 6 hours? Okay, why do you wait?
Between 3 or 6, like some people.
No.
Depending on where you're coming from the world.
Right, there's a whole different thing. But the fact is why was there even what was the theory for having
6 or
a period of waiting? So it's a matter of, it says, in order to let the food digest. Okay, there's actually a disagreement on what the reason was. One reason is it takes that amount of time for the food to come out of your teeth. Okay? In other words, when you eat meat, the meat stays in between your teeth. They didn't floss back then, and so forth and so forth, or people, not everyone would floss, so they wanted to ensure that the meat would be out of your teeth before you had milk. That's one reason. Okay. Another reason is is intestinal. It takes digestive processes this amount of time. Okay. Now there's a big machlokas, right? That's machlokas. It's actually nogei l'maisa. That argument actually has practical implications. Can you think of a practical implication where it would be different?
Well, if you reverse.
No, not with reverse.
If you didn't
you have to wait. One reason is because the meat will get caught between your teeth. The other reason is because the meat has to be digested.
You vomit it out and brush your teeth.
Come on.
But what are we looking for here?
Soup.
Soup?
Beef soup.
Oh, stuff that just.
Okay, so you don't actually have any meat.
It's a broth. Fermented.
Broth. The broth, right? So if the problem is the meat between your teeth, maybe you don't have to wait for meat for soup, right? Now there could be an aspect of a little plug also, but the fact is that perhaps it cannot, it would not, you may not have to meet after soup, but if it's because of digestion, well, the soup also has to digest. So the fact is that's an example of reasons. Now that's a drabanan, but the point is you have the same type of arguments in deraises and so forth, and we're always analyzing these things and so forth. The fact is that's part of what we were supposed to do, and both the chumrah and the kula and stuff like that. The fact of the matter is that's what we're supposed to do. So the point is to us, HaKadosh Baruch Hu on Har Sinai did not give us clear-cut statements of law. He did some, but he gave us certain laws that we're supposed to analyze and figure out and then indications of semi theories and other theories and stuff like that, and drushes on psukim and stuff like that to try and come to a certain conclusion. So it's really a very thoughtful process. But the difference is, and this is what I was getting back to the Christian argument, is that to us it was supposed to involve human beings.
Yes.
So when they sit there and said, and that's why fundamentalists, they take a straight, yeah, I'll listen to God. I'll listen to God. I won't listen to the rabbis. I'll listen to God. What did He say? I'll do. But therefore you have to say, I need a clear-cut statement of what God said to do, and it has to be clear enough for me to understand it. But according to us, right, the only way to understand what HaKadosh Baruch Hu meant is when human beings get involved in the process, with the result that there will be machlokas, with the result that there will be some matters of disagreement.
Ultimately, for us, it's not for Hashem, it's for us
to be involved, but not just to make the conclusions, but to be involved in the process.
So how are we? So in terms of who we're behooving to, like, why do we have to follow Shulchan Aruch? Why do
that's another issue of why we're bound to the Shulchan Aruch today. It's another issue of what Rav you should follow.
Right.
Those are all issues of how you. The fact of the matter is, Seilach HaRav, there's two statements of Seilach HaRav in Pirkei Avos, and some people say one is talking about your Rebbe and learning, and one is talking about the person you Yashal is to.
Right.
But the fact is that there's a whole analysis of how you should behave. If you're brought up as a Baba V'Chassid, do you always have to stay as a Baba V'Chassid? Okay? And some people say, yeah, Minhag Avosenu B'Yadenu. You have to follow the way you were brought up. But they say no. You have to apply your own mind.
Why can't you wait like 1 hour if your parents wait?
The fact is that that's a matter of analysis and so forth and so forth. But the point is
I never made the analysis.
What?
I never made the analysis.
No, but generally you do have to follow the minhag of your family. right? You have to follow the minhag of your
But
family.
you can change that.
The fact is
your
that, well, there's two ways to change. First of all, they may be involved in Heteres Sadarim, but the question is once you start becoming a person who is involved in psak themselves, and you're a person who's really involved in knowing the theories, then it gets to a point in time where you say, listen, I've always followed this theory of law, or this psak beforehand because I was following a psak. But now that I'm someone who can be involved in myself, then there's a certain limit of how much, there's a certain question of how much that I have to be honest to myself as well. Usually that will take you to chumrah, because you
So
be more
in this case of 3 or 6 hours, which one is to say?
Well, generally you have to follow the minhag that you brought up with. The fact is that if you really, the point is that you're not really going to find such big. You see, that's not the kind of thing you're going to see a person really take a stand on. You're going to see people take a stand on other halachas where they're following one minhag because that's the way they were brought up. Or when I say minhag, following one halachic route, one halachic decision. And there was a guy in the yeshiva once who I was told was a chassid before he came to the yeshiva. And I couldn't believe it when he was there. But then they showed me pictures of him when he was still a chassid with payas and so forth and so forth. And then finally he just bought the yeshiva, and he bought the Rosh Yeshiva, he bought the derech of the Rosh Yeshiva. The Rosh Yeshiva was not a big fan of Hasidus, and he very rational. And eventually he basically completely dropped his Hasidic ways. And the fact is, because this was his derech. This was his derech from Torah.
So when you have someone who's a Baal Tshuva, or someone who was off the derech and coming back, why can't you make it as lenient for them as possible? Why are we so crucial about, who you hold by, you don't want to be contradictory?
The fact is leniency is not the only thing. The matter is the system. But the fact is to let him work out the system.
Right.
Okay, the point is you have to work out the system.
Right. Now,
leniencies might be some of the ideas. People sometimes push chumras, which really they're pushing chumras because they don't understand the true spectrum of what's available, and the things like that. But the point is that there's certain people who present chumras as being the only halachic possibility, and that's not necessarily true. But the thing is what you do need is a that's what I'm looking for. What you do need is understanding of the system. Right. And the fact is that once you follow the understanding of the system, you begin to recognize that certain things that, in terms of any real posek, it's very hard to see leniencies and chumras, because it has his whole system. Like I had a Rosh Yeshiva once who most people would think was very lenient. Okay? The truth of the matter is, we used to stay up on Shavuos night. Okay? Stay up all Shavuos night learning, right? So we davened, and then we had Kiddush, right? Then he would stay up till Chatzos during the day. Why? Because the halacha was Chatzi Lashem v'Chatzi Lahem, right? That half the day is supposed to be to God, and half the day is supposed to be for you. And he held that the first part of the day had to be Chatzi Lashem. So he said, even though you stayed up all night learning all night, and everyone else in yeshiva, once you go to sleep and you have a little kiddush, you're in bed, right? He stayed up all the way till Chatzos, giving shir. Okay, and it's not so easy to stay up after a whole night until Chatzos. But he did that, and the reason he did that was because he felt that halacha. So the truth of the matter is, I found out in many ways is that on the surface people thought he was always this makel. He wasn't such always this makel. He had chumras as well. The point is once you start thinking with svaras, and once you have a methodology of learning and analysis, you got to be honest to your methodology. Right. It's your system. And that's what comes out. But the thing I was trying to point out before was that in terms of the Christian idea of a man-made law, if you didn't believe the Torah Shabbat Peh was from Shemayim, then it was a man-made law, right? They just saw the human beings playing around with the text that was revealed. No, Torah Shabbat Peh was revealed, and this is what the Kodesh Baruch Hu expected from you. The point is what's expected from you is then a completely different understanding of what that revelation was. Now, the point is, halacha is no longer just looking at the statements, and that's one of the problems with Shulchan Aruch today.
Right.
Now, you asked a good question before about Shulchan Aruch and so forth. We'll get to that one day. But the point is that basically Shulchan Aruch is the starting point. But if you really look at it, even the Nosei Kalim on the Shulchan Aruch have a bunch of analysis.
So it's not the starting point.
Okay, there's certain situations where the Ramah and Beis Yosef will pass in a certain way, and we don't necessarily follow them because the Taz and the Shach disagree. The point of the matter is that, and then nowadays there's new questions and new analysis, okay, and people come up to you and show you, but it says in the text this, like I said beforehand when I talked about shaving on Yontif, they'll sit there and say, but it says you're not shaving on Chol Moed, you're not allowed to shave on Chol Moed, and I give you analysis based upon Rabbi Shabir's understanding. No, because it's not just what the text says.
There's analysis behind it. Right.
And that really yields a completely different understanding of halacha. Now, that's something we should. Okay, we should. I mean, that's something we'll look at and so forth. But I'm just saying that it's really it's so significant. And by the way, this applies in everything. It's not just halacha. It applies in every system of analysis, every idea beforehand. Okay? Okay, when we talk about things, I mean, in so many ways, we're all, like I talked about creation and evolution. The point of the matter is that if you just read the text of Ma'aseh Bereishis, do you get any idea of what happened scientifically? Okay? You don't understand what happened.
Right.
Okay?
Where do you start?
Okay, where do you start with?
Sounds.
And by the way, I can show this with so many.
Physically.
Right, but the fact is that I give thousands of like so many examples. You know, what do you call it? Avram can't have a kid with his wife Sarah. So Sarah says, "Listen, I think you should go sleep with the maid and have a kid that way." Can we understand that from our perception of a husband-wife relationship? What wife would ever say to her husband, "Listen, have a kid with the maid"? I mean, do you understand that? A completely different world. Completely different world.
That's surrogacy.
Okay? And there's a big issue by Yibum, for example. Okay? Nowadays there's a whole
marry
what?
Wives then.
Right, but I'm thinking something else. The idea that two brothers, one's married, right? With one little son, one of them dies.
Yeah.
Right? Do you think the other brother has any interest in marrying his brother's wife? Do you think his brother's wife has any interest in...
They have a connection.
Right, where's the connection? I mean, that's Yibum. So there are people who say that's one of the reasons that Bizman Hazeh, right, among Ashkenazim, right, that's one of the ideas behind Chalitza, the idea of saying, listen, it will be very hard on a woman to actually go through Yibum. So.
But you can't usher it.
No, it's not usher. But actually, there's Manazeh. There's other reasons for the Yisr and so forth and so forth. But the fact
you can usher
no, the fact of the matter is we don't usher it. We say you should do Chalitza because you don't have the right intentions for Yibum.
No,
you can't do it. Ashkenazim say you can't do this. Sephardim can do it. Ashkenazim we don't do Yibum anymore.
Is that because of Rabbinic Gershon?
No. The fact is it's not because of two wives. Because the fact is you won't have the right kavanas in terms of Yibum. But the fact of the matter is, other people point out, the fact is that Bizman Hazeh, it would be onerous upon a woman to say she has to go marry this guy. It would be onerous. But then, if you read back in the Chumash, right, you see Tamar go to such extremes to Mekayim, not even the mitzvah of Yibum, but the minhag of Yibum of there. Therefore, she seduces Yehuda, right, dresses like a prostitute. I mean, it's unbelievable. The fact of that. Right, so the fact is that a completely different cultural thing. So I'm just pointing out is how do we understand a lot of Chumash without understanding the cultural aspect and the ideas there, the scientific aspects. The Keshet was the sign of the bris. There'll never be a flood. Well, the Keshet didn't exist beforehand. So people try to deal with the issue. Was there a Keshet before? Was not Keshet? Was a Keshet new phenomena? Keshet new phenomena has to be a totally different science. And then we have to analyze. And that's what we have to do. Any questions?
Is there not?